Good evening, everyone. I am Heidi Ferguson, and next to me is Fidesta Ramsey, and this is season 2, episode 1, or episode 53 of Cocktails and Pajamas. And the reason I'm saying that is because we are celebrating our the beginning of our second year of this podcast, and we're really excited about it. Um, so a couple things have really changed, in the last 2 weeks. So we did take a week off, and we were both practicing some pretty radical self-care. Um, I had something that came up with my health, and got some support around that, and just decided we were going to take the week off. So anyway, we're here. We're happy to be here. We hope that you are happy to be here with us. And if you are, give a shout out. We're going to be covering a couple of different topics this evening. And the first thing that I just want to mention is that over the weekend, most of the United States, I think it's just in the United States, I don't know, undid daylight savings. So we're no longer in daylight savings. We're back to regular time. And so for me, the reason I appreciate that is because I have a lot of family in the Southwest and in Arizona where they don't move their clocks. So our time is now 2 hours as opposed to 3 hours apart, which is actually quite a big deal, especially late at night. Like if it's 10 o'clock here and I want to quickly, or my sister, it's 8 o'clock and she wants to quickly call me or text me, she'll know that I'll probably still be up at 10 o'clock. So anyway, it's kind of a conundrum in some sense, like what are we doing here? Like, why do we do this? Right? Like, I think it goes back to the days of when people were farming and spending a lot of time. I don't even know where it came from. You're still muted. Are you intentionally muted? Okay.
Yeah, I was just listening to you and kind of getting that there is, a genuine curiosity as to like, is this working for us now?
Right.
And we're not in that same, let's say, community that needed it. So,
Right.
and I imagine there's benefits like maybe for young school children waiting for buses, or there might be like some contemporary conveniences with it. But it's interesting to then reconfigure with friends and family around the world, because we
Yeah.
have that too, which is pretty
Right.
astounding.
Yeah.
Like I had my eyes on like reminding my European peeps, but I totally forgot about like South America peeps.
Right.
Or some, like I was like, oh, right. I forget with all these Zoom calls sometimes that we really are all around the world in our like one planet, but in our own world.
Yeah. Yeah. So all that to say that I personally find it very challenging, this time change, the darkness so early, and tend to um, tend to want to get into my pajamas earlier.
Hence our earlier call time.
Hence our earlier call
Because
time.
we're
So
honoring and harnessing the season versus
yeah,
pretending we're robots, right?
yeah. So one of the things that we have kind of changed up a little bit is the time that we're going to be doing the podcast. Um, because before it just felt like when we were broadcasting at 7 and we would finish around 8, we were like, wow, and with the darkness it feels even later. So anyway, as of now, we're going to, from here on out, unless we let you know that we're going to make a change, I think we're going to stick to 5 or 5:15,
Yeah.
whatever works for us. We're going to be flexible with that, but certainly we're not going to start at 7. It's just a little on the late
Not
side for us.
happening. No deal.
No,
And here's the
definitely not
thing
happening.
I want to hold up, right? There are other countries, like Afghanistan being one of them, because I've talked to my parents about daylight savings. And what happened there was not that the time changed, it was that the rhythm changed along with the season. So, for an example, your work hours were shorter in the colder, darker months, and your work hours were a little longer in the summer months. right? So an hour later, I don't know, in May is very different than an hour later in February,
Right.
right? So nobody changed their clocks and like messed up the whole world's time difference consecutively and on purpose.
Yeah.
They just said, let's work 6 hours in the winter, but let's work 9 in the summer. Like, let's literally, I hear it as like, let's honor the wisdom of the rhythm and the way our body wants to lean now.
Yeah.
The body wants slower, quieter, more restfulness. Why would we, again, I come back to like, why would we pretend we're robots year round? Like,
Right.
because that I think actually harms a lot of people's mindsets. They think they're depressed, and it's like, no, you probably just want to rest like the rest of the animal kingdom.
Right.
Like,
Right. Because the animals do seem to have it figured out.
they're not resisting.
No. And they don't have they don't have a watch on their wrist or hanging in their homes or a phone for their time. Like they're like, I'm in nature. I'm following Mother Gaia and I kind of like what I'm doing here.
Yeah,
And they nap, that's what hibernation is. They nap a lot, they sleep a lot in the winter
yeah.
because that's what they need. That's what their bodies need.
I think I shared it with you, having done some dog sitting for a landlady, that I could mark some kind of seasonal change by how much her dog started to nap during these 2-3 weeks.
Hmm.
And it was like, he was normally just like hot to trot, ready to go out for a walk, do all things. And he was kind of like, no, I'm good. And it's like, we feel that way, but we judge it, or we push through, or
Right.
one of the worst ones, like we power through. It makes me cringe to say that term,
Yeah.
power through, because I just hear I'm not honoring myself. And sometimes we do have to power through,
Yeah.
but not all the time.
Not all the time.
And there's some people feel deeply affected by this time. I'm really glad you're bringing this up, because all primal senses, all senses attuned to nature, attuned to life, attuned to the animal kingdom, are going, let's slow down, let's get restful, let's not keep up the young pace of summer and outward and playful. Let's go in, let's harvest, let's reflect. Right? Like,
Hmm.
seems to be the energy of the like northern hemisphere during the autumn.
Hmm. Hmm.
And when we don't honor it, of course we're going to feel awful.
Right. Right. How could we feel any other way
Yeah.
when it goes against our natural rhythm?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it might serve society. You're productive the same way day in, day out, 365 days a year.
Right.
It works for the company.
It works for the
But
company.
does it?
But right, that's a good question. Does it really work for them? Or is
This
that
is
what
where
they're
I
telling
think of like
themselves?
conscious leadership. Is it really working for you that your employees might be more tired, a little less focused, but you kept them same amount of time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a good question.
And
Yeah.
letting people, because people go, oh man, now it's the holidays, or now it's other stressors, or like the difference between their body saying, I want to slow down, and the holiday season's a little sped up.
Right.
So that creates anxiety for people who are like, oh gosh, now I have to go shopping and get stuff for everybody and travel. And I just really want to stay in my apartment
Oh,
and journal,
right.
whatever.
Yeah.
Bake,
Right.
right? That
Right.
again, it's another having to push past ourselves.
Yeah.
And just naming that as part of the mental health of this time feels
Yeah.
important. People don't
Yeah.
judge themselves for needing a little more restfulness or restoration.
Yeah. So let's do a little check-in.
Yeah, we went right into it.
We
Okay.
got right into it. Let's back up a little bit and do a little check-in. And so today's Wednesday, the 10th of November. Wow. Um, So I will say that I'm doing better this week than I was last week, which is good. Um, intuitively, I think I have more stones. I feel like that certainly needs to be resolved, but they're not gone. But I'm not in pain. Um, and I'm also really being very diligent and practical about how they could potentially be activated.
Mm,
So I'm taking a break from my chiropractor right now because if there's a stone wobbling around in there, I don't, I
right.
don't, I don't need to kick that baby up. I'm like, let the, let it, like when it, what do they say? Let sleeping dogs lie, let the stone lie. Um, so anyway, so that, just my physical health, I'm feeling better this week. And mentally, I feel like I'm kind of status quo and I'm feeling a lot more solid, grounded in myself, which I would say I typically feel, but I have a lot more awareness with
Mhm.
that energy. And yeah, I think that's my check-in. I don't and we'll get into more of that. But yeah, I think that's my check-in for now.
Yeah, I'm glad you're feeling better, and still was really sweet to see you with those, just a whole different setup and being let in. I think that's the piece I want
Mhm.
to really appreciate you for. Right? It's like, yes, you reached out, we connected, that was wonderful, and I felt really let in at a time where you were in pain and could have kind of blown off everybody, right? Been like, I'm in pain. Nope. Um, yeah, I felt really let in and trusted.
Mhm.
And when you kind of, for me, it's like the feeling of like, wow, okay, like you'll really let me see you in it.
Mhm.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It grew my love for our relationship and for you.
Mm.
That's what I'm trying to say. Damn it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm,
That's sweet.
really glad you're well. Yeah. And I'm hearing, you don't know what the hell's gonna go on over there, so why throw crackling, and we don't know, but like we don't want to mess with it.
Right.
Right? I am I'm kind of basking in these things I really love. I've said this with you. I'm kind of in a launch window where I'm really launching um, my ability as a couple, like couples coach training, getting to like really understand that it's a constellation of energies that you're working with, and people who love each other, and just this, it's a sacred kind of thing to be let in onto. um, yeah, I feel like super honored to be holding that space for people. So that's happening. And that's just like, we had class today and I was just geeking out. Like, I was so happy. I forget like how much I love being a student, how much I love being like in conversations and brainstorming ideas and testing out theories and experimenting on something within a coaching container that I learned from class the other day. Like, just the growth mindset gets
Mhm.
to be fired up in that kind of training. I'm better for it. I'm better when I'm learning and being a student, and particularly the things I am just fired up about, and uh, that line up with like purpose and mission for
Mm.
me. Right? Like it doesn't feel like work to be in those classes or to do the homework, or yeah, it feels like aliveness.
Mm.
So that's just reminding me, it's very life affirming, like you're on the right track. right? Because for people who don't know me or tuning in just, into this episode, my big decision was at 40 leaving, wanting to leave finance and find like my soul power, purpose.
Mhm.
And finance would have been the responsible, you know, choice. But even my parents were like, "You're not happy there." Like, yes, it's, you know, what's considered steady or stable or whatever. And the irony is, like, I got laid off and really had a choice point, going, wait, well, if you get laid off of one of your jobs, that's not really steady.
Right.
So, like, wait, if it's not steady and I don't like doing it, might as well go entrepreneur and at least love
Mhm.
what I'm
Mhm.
doing. All that to say, the launch window of it's time to really um, learn, teach, share feels up. And it's really fun to just even ponder
Mm.
ways to serve when I, you know, um, ways to serve from where I am today as I'm growing, as I'm learning,
Mm.
versus ways to serve once I get somewhere. That distinction feels good. I don't know
Mhm.
if that makes sense, but
Yeah.
doing it from like, what could I share today that could help some people?
Right.
And if I'm doing that every day and I'm happy doing that every day, that feels like a win.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of where I'm a little giddy and like really well fed in
Mm.
my intellectual, emotional, mental space.
Mhm.
Uh, Sociology was my favorite class in high school
Mm.
because we sat around talking about human behavior. And so, like, to be like, that's my career, super juicy.
It's I find it to be one of the most fascinating topics. It's because human behavior is fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you. I'm delightfully geeky right now, which feels good. And owning it. you know.
What?
I said, and owning it,
And
right? Like
owning
there's
it.
parts of us. Is there something that you just like love to have your hands in terms of learning, like a certain kind of thing?
Personal growth work
Mm.
and spirituality could easily, and I have geeked out on that stuff for years. I mean, I love it so much. And which reminds me that, in the fifth agreement, which we've talked about, one of the things that came up is how in human nature, we often look for other people to save us or our higher power to save us. Like, I want it, and I realize I'm generalizing for those who identify as Christian. I'm just going to preface this by saying I apologize. It's not meant to offend anyone. Although what is often believed in the Christian faith is that they will be saved by, or they are being saved by God. And the way that Don Miguel phrased it in the fifth agreement is that because we are, as humans, are of God and have God within us, whether or not we believe that, it's just simply how we are made, that we really are here to save ourselves. Saving for us to expect or think or believe that someone else can save us, we're kind of wasting our time. But to know that we have what we need within us to save ourselves, that's where the power lies.
Yeah. Mm.
And so, um, Yeah, and so when I dig into that in a conversation, oh my God. It's just, wow. I mean, yeah, could totally geek out on that, you know?
I'm feeling such like warmth in my throat and kind of like this whole warmth heart throat area, just thinking of like, I think that's my happy place too. So I'm like, right, that that place between us, that common ground between us is really sweet to realize and acknowledge.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? It
yeah.
feels it feels really I guess like a shared value. I
Yeah,
guess that's the term I'm gonna put, a
sure.
shared value and going, cool, like I love that too.
Yeah.
Because even my website, when I was thinking about all these things, it's be your own hero and rock your one precious life,
Mm,
right? And that came from one of the first things Debbie Ford said to me the first day I met her was, no one's coming to save you. So now what? Yeah, welcome to like nice to meet you. This is my coach. And it rattled everything.
yeah,
The way my cells were arranged at that moment got
yeah.
rattled because I was waiting for knight in shining armor or countless other ways that like I will be taken care of.
Mhm, mhm.
And to be literally like looked in the face, look in the eye, and been like, no one's coming to save you. Like,
Right.
that's it's the good news, it's the bad news.
R Yeah, yeah,
Because it's sort of, it's my condolences and congratulations,
right,
which is how I
right.
hold my clients. Like, yes,
Mhm.
I feel you and I'm excited for you.
Yeah, yeah. And to know that we can't have we really can't have emotional growth and emotional intelligence without spiritual growth and spiritual intelligence. They're so embedded and so hand in hand that it's interesting when I work with clients and and we're working on their personal growth. And for me, it fluctuates. It just kind of flows back and forth. And if there's resistance around the spiritual piece, there's some work to be done,
What does
right?
that look like when you say resistance around the spiritual piece?
Um, well, the one line that I hear a lot is, "Well, I'm not religious." And I'm like, "Well, this isn't about religion." So
Mm,
spirituality and religion are two very different things.
but they've been conflated together a
They
little.
have been met I just think, yeah, over the years, they've kind of, um, what's the word I want to, yes, kind of have been, I want to say organically enmeshed,
Like merged.
merged. Yeah.
Yeah,
And is it organic? I'm not really sure. Or is it patriarchy, right? I don't know. Okay.
fair point.
Um, and so yeah, the resistance is the line which I've heard, like I said, a lot is I'm not religious. And so then I have to explain to them kind of explain to them that religion and spirituality are very different. So are you not religious or are you not spiritual?
Yeah. Can
Right?
anyone claim they're not spiritual?
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. I because the next question I ask is, were you born? And the looks are like, what? Well, how else did I get here? I'm like, that there you go.
Mm,
And how do you think you were created? Right?
yeah.
How did all of this happen? And which then of course very, very naturally goes into typically a conversation about faith.
Mm,
Because we can't necessarily see everything
yeah.
with our eyes, but the choice is to believe. And it is a choice. It's a choice. You don't have to believe, but if you do believe, you're taking a risk, you're taking a leap a faith. Um, wow, I didn't know that we would be going down this road, but this is lovely, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and I would say for myself and my own spiritual and emotional intelligence journey with personal growth, I think no, I'm pretty sure that at a because at a very young age I had this very innate, built-in faith belief system, which has carried me through all these different
Hmm.
stages and events in my life and relationships that I've been in and situations that I've been in. And so I would say that the spiritual piece for me was first, and then the emotional intelligence, and then the personal growth was later in life.
Hmm.
And the way that these three for me have come together in such a beautiful way is, and I don't use the word amazing that much, but I'm in awe of it because it's not something that I think is, it's not, it's easy now because it's something I've been living with for a long time, but it's taken time and it's taken work to make all of this work together and to really trust. And yes, I do have times when I doubt and I'm like, what am I doing? What's happening here? And I'm like, oh my God, what's not aligning? But when I get back to myself, and like I was sharing during my check-in, the grounding, when I'm really grounded in myself, I don't have any doubts. Like I am so sure of myself and my belief system and where I am in within me and in my life. That's when it's really easy.
Hmm.
And I also want to say that it's easy to get knocked off course. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I love that. I'm trying really hard not to put up like metal horns, like the like just like the loving this conversation and also the transparency of it. Because if I
Mhm.
feel into, I don't know if you can feel this, like where I was when I started the spiritual path, I gently touch it because it's like I was not in a good place.
Mm.
Right. But if I think of like what my days were like then, and then this many decades long journey to what frequency and life and vision and things I have access to, like the work was worth it. And the work wasn't always easy.
Yeah.
There were those dark nights of the soul. There are the trust walks and faith walks and did I make the right choice? And then there's like the growth, right? I try to think of when I'd been in Yosemite, they have all these trees, right? And the trees every year they create a ring, so to speak. And if someone has kind of cut through a tree or it's fallen, you can see the rings. And the forest ranger guy was telling us that when there's fires in that area, that year the tree doesn't grow, like the ring is like very narrow,
Oh,
but the following year it grows 3 times bigger
wow.
from the chaos of the fire. So I think about that on years that feel like especially arduous or
Mhm.
really trying to build my character and my
Mhm.
emotional intelligence, that I think about, okay, this is that year where like, right, maybe um, it doesn't look like you're growing yet because you're in the struggle,
Mhm. Mhm.
but then this is going to grow you,
Right.
like to stick with it. It's still a trust walk.
Every day. Every freaking day is a trust walk. It is.
How could it not
It is.
be?
How can it not be?
Yeah.
Every day, every second of our day is a trust walk.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's something really sweet, it's not in a morbid way. I share this with Dave Matthews, who's often said at concerts, that he really basks in every moment of his life as best he can because he knows it'll end
Right.
in physical form, right?
Right.
And I have that in me. I have me that place in me that's like, no one's promised tomorrow. Not like create havoc in the nervous system, just a like a
Sure.
humble, sincere awareness that that's true.
Yeah.
And then wanting to like, you know, hug my partner like extra, but because it's like my heart is open to that awareness,
Yeah.
right? Or really appreciate someone because like this is the moment.
Hmm.
That feels really good.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm not always there. If I didn't do my meditations in the morning and I had to run out, you know, to do something, and it's like, wait, I hadn't oriented to your point of what I heard in my words, like when I'm in my alignment,
Hmm.
I know, like I got me,
Right.
right? So that being like such an important pre-game to the day,
Hmm.
getting in alignment.
Yeah.
Right? Do you have rituals in the morning that help you step into the world in your centered, grounded, intuitive place?
Yeah, I do. So the first thing I want to say is I don't set an alarm. I like to wake up naturally when I can. And I don't judge myself. Like if I am sleeping past 8 o'clock, I let myself sleep past 8 o'clock because I believe that's my body's way of saying I need a little more rest.
Mhm.
So, and the reason I say that is because I feel like I recently had a conversation with, or someone had sent me a text like, because the time is shifting and everything, and they had said, I'm I feel like I'm in so many words. This person said that they're feeling guilty about sleeping later, about,
Mhm.
sleeping even 30 minutes later. And I was like, oh, I let them have their space to process that. And in my own heart, I'm thinking, it's just your body needing rest. This is what you need right now.
Mhm.
So it's important. I'm saying that because for those who might be struggling with that, if you have the time to give your body rest, give it rest. So anyway, so yeah, so I sleep until I wake up, which is really I realize it's a luxury. I love it. And I usually do a little reading in the morning.
Mhm.
I usually do a
Okay.
little reading in the morning, like because I always have a big book next to my bed, and I'm reading something, and then I have my routine of prayers. They're just kind of like affirmations. I think of them as prayers, but they're affirmations because they are my way to connect to spirit, consciously. And then I kind of slowly get up and do my thing, and then I start to I like ritual, and I believe there's something very spiritual for me in ritual.
Mhm.
So if I'm making myself a cup of tea, or if I'm making myself a cup of coffee, or if I'm just in my kitchen, I think of my kitchen as a very sacred space because the energy in my kitchen is really good and warm and nourishing. And so even if it doesn't matter what I'm prepping, but just the idea that I'm going to be nourished by it
Mhm.
makes me feel warm and loved inside. So I'd say the whole process is probably between waking up and then my first sip or my first bite of something is probably an hour and a half. And I really just kind of take my time.
Mhm.
Take, I'm not in a rush, which is also a big part of it, because I really enjoy and appreciate feeling, literally physically feeling and emotionally feeling whatever I am feeling as I'm going through the process. Um, that for me is a big part of my personal growth and spiritual growth, the feeling into it. Um, and sometimes if so, there are times when if I don't recognize the feeling, or I'm like, where, if I feel I'm too much in my head, I will literally, and I'm standing, or if I need to, even I can need to do it when I'm sitting as well, but I'll stamp my feet
Hmm. Hmm.
just to kind of like get myself a little more grounded. Um, so there are a lot of like techniques and that I do as well as I'm kind of going there, and I know that there are things that I'm not sharing that I'm kind of forgetting
Yeah.
about, because it's just, when you get into your routine, it's just rote. It becomes rote, which is lovely, and I like that.
Yeah, I love just what you just said because I know people who may not have a strong morning routine, who want one. And so it's really neat to just name, like, now it's become, I'm gonna call it non-negotiable. Like, it's part of your morning. It's who you are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
And for people who are like, it's not who I am, I have to build a habit. Just to know, like, if you want a strong morning routine that sets you up, you can create one and like move your way towards that being like just how you do mornings,
Right.
right?
Right.
Period. Yeah. I'm really relating because I took this up in Harlem because it was the first time I had roommates, um, outside of a partner, right? But like, and other energies in the house. And when I wake up, we've talked about this, I'm pretty liminal. I'm still coming back from wherever I was. I'm very contemplative. Um, and I basically want to look, like, I'm so visual. So it's like I'm looking at the flowers, checking out the colors. I'm like touching the rosemary and smelling it. Like I'm
Mm.
very much just coming into the morning, feeling the sunshine, right? And I remember a time when it was like alarm, get up, go to the gym, come back home, shower, get to work, make, whatever. I never did well. My nervous system never did well with the be at your desk at 9 a.m., ready staff meeting,
Mhm.
whatever the edict is, right? At a job, at an office job. And I fought myself long and hard trying to fit into that container,
Yeah.
which didn't honor my rhythm, my nervous system, any of that. So it's just a real gift as an entrepreneur to be like, yeah,
Yeah.
my mornings, like, because Richard loves to wake up earlier, he really benefits from puttering around quietly alone in the morning, which benefits me, it benefits us. It's all good, right? But his promise is he'll snuggle with me before he leaves the bed.
Mm.
Then I go right back into my cozy sleep. And then I wake up, listen to meditations. He listens to his. We have a chosen time we convene for our morning coffee and we wax esoteric most of the time. Sometimes it's logistics, which I don't love, but I know are necessary.
Mhm.
And then we go off into our worlds. And I still don't, at 9 o'clock when he goes to teach, I'm still not available to the world.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? I'm
I do.
available to him is very different. But then there is that, like you said, floating time. Maybe I do a little yoga in the sunlight for like 5 minutes, just like mini yoga,
Mhm.
sunbathing. Maybe I make some tea, and just to be like, wow. I think I'm considering this for anyone who might be feeling this way where they work. Honoring what my rhythm is and when I'm most productive and when I'm actually tired. It feels so simple and not like rocket science,
Right.
but we're fighting against society's norms
I know.
to do it. So
Yeah.
it takes some courage,
It does. It does. Yeah.
you know.
And I would also say it takes, because sometimes we get caught into the subtleties of it, like you were just saying, it's the societal norms, right? And sometimes we're not even aware but they're the societal norms because we're just going along with it. So for me, the additional thing that it takes is I have to make sure that I'm aware of what I'm doing. Oh, that's right. To me, that's my priority. So that's what I want to do.
Mhm.
And so for anyone who for anyone who's listening who is looking to create a new habit for themselves, um, I want to say maybe not think of it as a habit, but feel into what feels natural and organic for you. Because your morning routine, if you want to kind of evolve and come into it in a really gentle way, it initially it might take some intention and a little bit of like, this feels right. This doesn't feel so good. I really like that. That maybe tomorrow, and you might need to do a little bit of rearranging
And exploring,
and
right?
exploring,
Mhm.
and it can be done.
Mhm.
And but for me, the most important thing is the gentle piece because I'm really not a morning person. I am not. I never will be a morning person. It just like I'm so adverse to them. I do not
What
like
is
the morning.
what does that term mean? Because I love getting up in the morning, but I don't want to interact with a bunch of people in the morning.
Right. That's true. I don't mind getting up early,
Yeah.
but I don't want to have to be, I want to just do my thing.
But you know what I'm going to say with you doing your thing means that you are set up to be in your alignment to then serve well. It's not
Yeah.
entirely
Yes.
selfish,
It
right?
sets my day.
Mhm.
It sets my day.
Like
Yeah.
you're being responsible for your energy.
Right.
And I think of this, when you're talking about like, how do you want to be? How do you want your energy to feel? If it's like wired and, I think some people look like little bumblebees just bzzz all over the place.
Right.
It's like, is that working for you? And if it's not, how do you want to be? And then working towards that. To your point of like, we don't even sometimes know it's a social norm. It had
Right.
me thinking of when I got into rock music in my 20s, right? It's the Sunset Strip and it's LA and it's um, the record labels and the whole weird heyday, right? And I had a mentor, Carrie Cole, who to this day I look up to and learn from. And she said to me, it was just this great pattern disruption question. She said, imagine your day and who you are and your own personal rhythms. Do you want to be waking up on a tour bus with 12 other people, having driven 800 miles after a show, after partying, waking up at 7 a.m. to go to the radio stations and then sound check and then backstage fan stuff? Like, do you see yourself wanting to do that for 9 months? Because the stuff you're doing is towards that, right? It's like make a record, put a band together, all the stuff. And I was doing it because that particular music industry time period, that's what you were told it was the thing to do, right? It was the societal norm of the music
Right.
industry. And this question she asked, she's like, or do you want to be creating at home and collaborating with people and walking around in your bunny slippers to the mailbox at the time when checks got mailed and picking up royalty checks from songs you've written that either you sang or someone else cut the track. Um, and being more like in the creation process versus the performance process, the commerce, I guess, process. And my everything in my being was like, bunny slippers, please. Right. But all my behavior was
Mm,
what in psychology they call introjections, society's values injected. Like we don't even know it's in our
right.
veins a little until we do.
Right.
And then we can find our anti-venom or whatever. But my point being, like, sometimes we need someone to ask us that kind of question. When you envision your life, is it being this creative artist who's, comfortable and cozy, or are you really wanting this crazy, sometimes 16 months in a tour bus,
Right.
night after night, 6 nights on, 1 night off? Like, right? Like there's real budget constrictions in the way you're pushed on the road for it to work financially. And that changed everything. Saying
Sure.
yes that. Because when I was little, I wanted to work in bed, in my pajamas, on my own schedule, following whatever it is I wanted to do next because that
Hmm.
felt magical to me.
Hmm.
Following my excitement and enthusiasm and curiosity all day. Because that's what kids do,
Right.
hopefully.
Yeah.
I didn't want to lose that for like, I don't know what to call it, some strategic north someone else handed me.
Right.
Could you imagine me? I would have been like Alanis Morissette in the closet with earplugs on and like, you know,
Yeah.
it's like, and it's also knowing yourself and what you're really wanting to deal with.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's steps in there, hopefully that resonate with people. Like just moving the needle a little bit in the
Yeah.
direction of the life that feels healthier. I'm saying healthier for a reason because I think people forget how much their health is linked to their stress.
Right. Hmm.
Right? Like do what's healthy for you because actually that's way more important,
Hmm.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm just a civilian with an opinion, but but I've pressure tested it. So
Okay.
mm, we're almost at time.
We are almost at time.
Is there
Oh my
anything
God.
else that
Yeah.
was up for you that you just want to share as we gently
Well, the
close?
one, as you were speaking about, your 20s and this mentor had, I'm just really appreciating that there was someone in your life who had shared with you another option. Because how many times do we, I'm going to say we general people, go through life with these social norms thinking that's the only option,
Mhm.
right? And not only has not someone else not put the bug in our head, but we're not even looking outside the box. We're in the box.
Those are the parameters, right?
We're
Like,
in the parameters, as Dewey would say. We're in the parameters, right? And we're not even considering what's outside the parameters for ourselves. And so how does that lock us up? How does that confine us? And what is that doing to us? And so for those who are even feeling the resistance like of
mhm,
being in the box, and then as you mentioned, the health and the stress that comes from being in the box and not wanting to be in the box, but isn't sure
yeah.
what else is there. Wow, that's a lot. There's a lot in just packed in that, um and yeah, my parents come from a generation of go to an office or, do the thing 9 to 5, that kind of thing. And that was the norm. Or uh, my mom still doesn't really understand this entrepreneurial. She's like, are you working? Like, it's
Who's
really
your
fascinating
boss, right?
because in her mind, work is I go somewhere, I report to someone, that kind of thing. And so yeah, and I get that, at the age of 87, that's where, that's what she's known, right?
Mhm,
Um, so and for anyone who is, I want to say, stuck in that mindset, and we want to tell you, we want to just let you know that there are a lot more options,
mhm.
even more than just what we're, than just as an entrepreneur. There are a lot of options. And to, if you are feeling a resistance of being in the box, talk to someone if you don't even know what that option might be, but have a conversation with someone. There's a siren. Do you hear the siren or no?
No, I don't
Okay.
think so. Yeah, and I
Okay.
just wanted to add to that, like, and get support if you need it, because
Yes.
sometimes I know for me, I still do my best to brave it, but like pushing against or moving past social constructs to your truth can feel very confronting, very
Yeah.
scary. Can also feel really exciting, right?
Yeah.
But have people around, have allies that can cheer you on, that can support you when you have the dips, because you will, with the doubts, and people in your world that show evidence that it can be done. Because like sometimes we got to see that one unicorn in the forest to believe unicorns exist, right?
Right.
So it's like, let someone who's maybe just 10 steps ahead of you be both a model of what's possible and also an ally in helping you take those steps.
Yeah.
I can't imagine where I would be without my mentors,
Mm-hmm.
because their hard-earned wisdom was then like poured into me, and it shaved years off of my learning,
Mm-hmm.
suffering, right? That someone else shared what they learned. It's it's kind of like how we raise each other. It's like the whole village being able to help.
Yeah.
So I just say get support if you're feeling stuck, because chances are, we get clarity with support
Yeah.
sometimes.
And we're not meant to do this alone. We're really not. It's too, I would even say it's nearly impossible to do it alone.
Yeah. Isn't there a quote? I don't know if it was Carl Sagan or somebody, Richard said it before to me, that's like, oh, if you think you're self sufficient, you do everything. Like, okay, you want to bake a cake? First, create the universe, right? And then create the minerals and the components and the like. It's like, how could we think we might feel alone? I
Right.
will grant us that, but how I wouldn't be dressed with internet, with a piano and a laptop, like none of it,
Right.
none of it. So yeah, you're already supported, and if you need more support through the darker, colder days or a darker, colder chapter of life, you know, we can lift each other up. I definitely believe in that.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm.
So, shall we move to the chat pack question?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. Okay. There are two.
Okay.
What is the longest tunnel you've gone through or the longest bridge you've ever gone over?
Gosh, I don't really know. Don't really know that I've carried metrics of tunnels or bridges, honestly. Can I buy a vowel?
I think same, right? Same. And I think the longest bridge I've gone over is the Golden Gate. I think so. I
Mhm.
think so. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't feel like I've been on anything that would be like, oh, perceptibly like, wow, that was a long bridge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the next question is, what is the most mind-boggling concept for you to even try to comprehend?
Scientists trying to make black holes in the lab.
Wow.
I just, as an ops liability person, I'm like, that's just not a great idea to me personally. And I don't understand enough to be like, wait, why are you trying to make black holes on the planet?
I didn't even know that was a thing. Okay. So the one thing that is mind-boggling to me, as much as I want it, because I really want this to happen, and that is for, like, my first response was world peace, but I'm like, it has to start here. So for everyone to love themselves and to get to a place of peace with themselves, to me, is something that I really want. And it feels mind boggling because there are a lot of people on the earth.
And a lot of different consciousnesses, I'm gonna say.
All of it. Yeah.
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 I like that one. Yeah. There's something in that one that I resonate with as well.
Yeah.
This idea of like, well, how is it possible? And yet it's the inner flame, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm, thank you, friend.
Thank you, my friend. And thank you all for joining us, whoever was listening. And again, yeah, if you want to say hello, please do, or ask a question or have a comment. We are welcome to all those. And we will see you next week.
Thank you.